week 7. I think we're in week 7. Oh my goodness. So I'm excited about this one myself. I had to miss the workout last night, because I'm lazy, but I had other things I had to do. So I missed the workout, which is usually my Wednesday favorite, but this one we're going to learn about how to volunteer, I think, and not leave the house to do it, and the things that need to be done, which is very important to me, because when we don't have to physical distance, I'm the kind of person that does like to get out and volunteer in person, to serve on boards or to hand out burritos to homeless or whatever. Those are the things I like to do. So I'm really excited to learn what we have here. And
all right. So, Maureen, do you have anything before we get going?
Yeah, let me get Maureen. There we go. I hit unmute Maureen, so you may have to do it. And same, Scott. I also tried to unmute you, but you have to, I think, somehow accept it.
It says I'm unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Got you both, yep.
Okay, yay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for our Mountain Hour. Just want to give a reminder about our COVID-19 hotline, and that phone number is 303-778-1130, extension 219. You also can email assistance@nfbco.org. And then also reminder that tomorrow, Friday, we will not be having our regular 5 o'clock call. There is a live presidential release at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So we encourage everybody to get onto that. And we will have another great week next week. I know Monday we're going to be having Ron Brown telling his story. Also remember that our workout Wednesdays are going to start with about a 45-minute kind of all workout. It's good for any level. And then we're adding in an advanced component. And so next week will be an advanced upper body workout starting at 5:45.
All right, awesome.
Turn it over to you.
Scott, do you have anything?
Oh, yeah, sure. Real quick, I want to remind people to register for our national convention. It is free this year. The online virtual convention is free, and we want to set the attendance record. So make sure you register at nfb.org. Also, next Tuesday is Giving Tuesday. It's usually in December, but because of the pandemic, they have moved it now to May. And the NFB, the Give Me Foundation, is matching donations. So every dollar you can toss in, it'll be matched. So let's make sure we take care of that and take advantage of that opportunity. And on a personal note, I just got to say, I have figured out how to use my Braille Sense Polaris and get on these Zoom calls, which is kind of really cool to look at all this stuff with a Braille display. And anyway, so it works.
Can you see like the hand raising and the chat and all that stuff on it?
Yes, I can go into participants. I can go into the chat.
So
I don't know if I can send a chat.
Scott's going to replace you. He's going to
no.
moderating our
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much.
Kevin, you do a great job.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for being here tonight. I'm really, really excited about this call. We've got some great stuff that's going to be coming up. But the first person that I want to introduce is actually a dear friend of mine, Darian Smith. Darian has always had a passion around community service and making sure that blind people have the opportunity to fully participate in community service, whether it's in person or virtually or how that looks. And so Darian is going to talk to us about a lot of the resources that are available for people as far as virtual volunteering is concerned. So Darian, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, Jess, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. And thank you, Jessica. Good evening, everyone. My name is Darian. I won't say more because Jessica did it. And I think Jessica said it really well in terms of the idea of volunteerism. I really think this is very much rooted within our philosophy. If you really go back to everything we do in the organization traces back to this one fundamental idea, I like to think, is that we believe that we have a fundamental right to live in the world. part of that fundamental right, we say, is the responsibility of giving back. Now, that can take a whole host of forms. It can be teaching someone how to travel using a cane. It could be teaching them Braille. It could be helping them get to a chapter meeting. It could be any of the number of things we do during Meet the Blind Month. Because, you know, just think about it. Everything we do in the Federation, we are by and large, we're a volunteer organization. So that giving back can take a whole slew of forms, including that. Now, what I always find interesting about volunteering is looking at something that I maybe thought I couldn't do, and then thinking about how it could be done. So, you know, and maybe it's something that maybe I thought was initially something that a sighted person could do, but I couldn't. Or maybe someone I know was like, hey, this is really cool. I just don't think you can do it. And then I'm like, let's find out. So now we're thinking now about virtual volunteerism. And with all of what's going on right now, it is amazing. We're finding out what technology allows us to do, how it allows us to keep in touch with our friends and our family and help others and these types of wonderful things. And fortunately now there are a lot of places that you can go looking at ways that you can volunteer virtually. I can look at it. There are 3 websites I'll throw out to you to think about maybe checking out. One of them is serve.gov. So serve.gov will talk about a whole host of like where you can go to volunteer for things. One place you can go is All for Good, and All for Good is a portal, a searchable portal from an outfit called the Points of Light Institute. And so there you can see a bunch of opportunities that individuals and you know, corporate go and volunteer. People can totally take advantage of themselves. Things like from the Red Cross and Missing Maps and different outfits of that sort. But it's a searchable database. I've known it to be accessible because I've looked at it a time or two myself. And like I said, that's one I look at. For those in Colorado, one place you can look at, and really in general, one place you look at is the United Way. It's a very searchable place. It's a very searchable database for opportunities. In Colorado, you have the Mile High United Way is one place to go for things. And then when you're looking at organizations, there's just some in general, just some I'll throw out that you can dive into today if you want, and there's more, but so you can always look at your local food bank and see if they do virtual food drives. And the concept of this is really cool. It's basically, hey, you know, you can volunteer. You can basically go and set up a website, a portal with either in your name or in the name of an organization or in honor of someone, and you can get people around you, people anywhere, to put together, well, to raise money. And that money goes directly to the food bank, so then they can go to their networks and get food and get the food that's needed and get it the most cost-effective way they can and get that out to people. So it's making sure that nothing is wasted, because sometimes they'll go through and someone gives maybe a jar of something and it was fine when it got there, but maybe in sorting it broke. And so now that food isn't any good. And it was thrown in and if that jar was thrown in a bag with other things, and there's other food that now is no longer useful. So that's sort of an interesting thing I learned about that. Steve's Up campaign. It's a campaign of the Red Cross where it's a similar idea. You can do a virtual drive and people can pitch in and give blood, and there's more information on that. But it's a really interesting idea there too, similar concepts. The crisis text line, so that's one where you can just go and go through a training, and from there you can people may text you and you'll text them, and there's a lot of privacy there involved. So there's definitely people's privacy is secure there, but it's a really interesting idea for those who really want to support people going through tough times, like maybe what we're going through right now. Teensgive.org. So if you know a teenager or high schooler that wants to help other kids, it's a really cool website to check out. And those are just some basic things to think about to get started. And like I say, All for Good, Points of Light, serve.gov, United Way, or a number of places to start at to go looking. And you can always go for any organization that you are really attached to and see what opportunities they're innovating around, because we're all just trying to figure out the best ways to help each other. So Jess, I think that's basically what I have without going into any more detail. And some of that stuff we can get sent out to the affiliate lists and get to other people as they might want. But
that's what I was going to say. We'll definitely put this on Colorado Talk. And if you're not signed up on Colorado Talk, you would like to have Darian's list of volunteer opportunities that he's talked about today, you can email assistance@nfbco.org. That's assistance@nfbco.org, and we'll make sure that we get those resources to you. So the next person that I am so pleased to introduce is our first vice president of the Community Service Division, which is a division of the National Federation of the Blind, and her name is Dr. LaShawna Font. And I'm very excited to get to meet Dr. Font today and get to hear all about the Community Service Division. So take it away.
All right, and I've hit unmute for you, Miss LaShawna, and you can hit unmute to confirm. There you go.
There I go.
Yeah.
Okay, my phone was talking to me. Good evening, everybody. I want to first start off by saying, Darian, you gave a wonderful list of resources, and to be honest, your list was my list. So I don't have anything to add to that, and thank you for that and for all of your years of service. First of all, y'all, I just want to say that I'm very glad to be on this call. President Janetta Price could not make it, so I'm here as a representative. I've been involved in this division just for under a year, so I'm really just getting my feet wet. But I want to say hats off to the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado. April happens to be National Volunteer Month, and what a way to conclude this month. I want to say that we do have a Facebook page, National Federation of the Blind Community Service Division. We're often updating this page, and we have some things that we are trying to do to help people during this time. So I just would like to invite you all to like our page. Also, we have a Google form. If you are doing any kind of community service, you can complete this form, and we will put the information on our page just to let people know what our members are doing across the United States. Also, I just want to say that all my life, I have been involved in community service. My mom is in the healthcare field, and we were always around the geriatric patients, and I have a great love for helping others. Actually, I'm in education, so that's what I do every day. And during this time, I have been calling people and texting people. My family, we donated snacks to a local hospital because they put an ad in the paper because they have a lot of families in waiting rooms with while their loved ones are hospitalized. So we donate snacks. And also, I just have been checking on people that I know who've had to work during this pandemic. So what I would say, if you are not able to do any type of volunteer work virtually, do what you can to give back. And that's what I have to say for now, Jessica. Thank you.
Awesome, so much. And I just went on and liked your Facebook page. So thank you so much for sharing that. And, you know, getting connected with the Community Service Division is a great way to connect with other like-minded folks who are interested in giving back. And I think it's such a great division, and I'm so happy that we have it as a part of the National Federation of the Blind. So thank you so much for sharing.
And I put that link to the Facebook page in the chat for everyone.
Awesome. So next, I am really excited to introduce our next presenter. She is somebody who I went to kindergarten with and graduated high school with, and who's always been a person who has had a true heart of service. She has always been willing to give to others and to share her immense talents and skills in whatever way that she can. And I just have so much admiration and respect for Ashley Mosley from Nashville, Tennessee. Ashley has volunteered for a number of years on a crisis line. So I'm going to have her tell us more about her experience as a virtual volunteer.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Jessica, thank you so much for that introduction. That was so sweet of you to say. Y'all, I've known Jessica since we were like 4. So I have been volunteering with, it's a local crisis line here in Nashville, but we do answer for a national line. It's the agency that the line is affiliated with is called Sexual Assault Center. And just to give you a little bit of background, I am a licensed master's level social worker in the state of Tennessee. And one of my specialties is crisis intervention and working with survivors of trauma. And I really wanted to take that passion and learn how I could volunteer virtually, because at the time I was working full-time. I'm like, I do not have the energy to go to work and then go somewhere else and volunteer and stay there and have to go back home. So this was a perfect opportunity. And I signed up for it in 2013, did about 24 hours worth of crisis training to, do line specific training, because I'd already had some suicide prevention training. But then in November of 2013, I started volunteering on the line. I do it once a week for a 4-hour shift. And you can take, the minimum is a 4-hour shift once a week, but you can take as much as they will let you, take. I don't know if volunteers have to be local. I will check on that if any of you all are interested in volunteering. We do also answer the phone for the RAIN, the Rape and Incest National Network hotline. And it has been so rewarding. And y'all, this is something that you can do just, on your couch, under a throw, snuggled up, watching a movie. All you gotta do is just, due to the inaccessibility of their particular portal, due to the inaccessibility of the portal that the Sexual Assault Center has chosen to utilize for rolling the line, my supervisor actually rolls the line. And so once she rolls the line and I have it, and I know I have it, all I gotta do is wait for my cell phone to ring. It's beautiful. I don't have to, pay transportation costs. I don't have to get dressed up. I can just be me, be around here and volunteer and give back. It is wonderful. And I've been doing it for about almost 7 years, and I'm ready for another 7. There's also, and I encourage you to check and see if any of these exist in your area. But here, I'm a part of a group called Middle Tennessee Mental Health Professionals Network on Facebook. And they have something they're trying to get together to provide voluntary, emotional support for the healthcare workers, because like, nurses and doctors and CNAs and respiratory therapists who work in hospitals, who work on the front lines with COVID patients and their families, because these folks just have some very, very heavy work. And we hadn't heard a lot about places where they can safely go and process all of this heaviness that they have to see and, live with on a daily basis. So that's something that we're trying to get started. In addition, if any of you are bilingual, I do have a resource that I can send via email. It's a grassroots project, and it's called Interpret to Save a Life. And it helps connect interpreters to small clinics and smaller hospitals in rural areas, and they support over 40 languages. I happen to be bilingual in Spanish. I'm not a certified interpreter, but I saw it come across my email, and I just, bookmarked it and saved it, because, what a great virtual volunteering opportunity to do. And I think that virtual volunteering in and of itself is just wonderful, because it takes away any of the, oh, well, I can't go because I don't have the money to, or, I don't want to get dressed up today, or, something. The only time that I've ever canceled out on volunteering was when I had a work conflict or I genuinely felt sick. Other than that, I'm on that line, in my designated hours, and I absolutely love it. And Jessica has my email, and she can feel free to send that out to you all as well. I was going to give it out here, but just due to, audio maybe choppy or something, I'll just let her go on ahead and send that out. And please feel free to, email me with any questions. If you want to talk, we can set up a conversation about like, well, hey, what's it like on the crisis line? What do you do? I know that she asked me to tell us a story, and I will, without giving any names or breaking confidentiality. I had a woman who called one July 4th because the fireworks were triggering her PTSD, and she was having a flashback. And when she called, she was crying, hyperventilating, and just could not really ground herself. And so through just speaking together, we were able to, return her to a non-crisis state and, get her feeling safe again and get her out of the flashback and into the present. And I just thought that was amazing, that I was put in a position to be able to help someone like that.
Awesome.
Kev?
Go ahead.
Am I unmuted? I had a question for you, and I hope I didn't miss it. I hope you didn't slip it in there during a 20-second where the computer, where everything crashes. But I'm wondering, since you're volunteering, about the pandemic, how has that affected the traffic on the line that you get? How are things in terms of the pandemic and your volunteer work?
Well, that's a very, very good question. Actually, it has not increased due to the pandemic. I thought that it would have, but it has not, as far as when I've been on the line. Now, if I'll have to go to my supervisor and ask her about, just the trend as a whole. But, when I've been on, there hasn't been an increased amount of traffic.
Great. That's good.
All right, awesome. Do we have any other questions for Ashley while we have her up?
*9 to raise your hand on the dial-in, Alt-Y on a computer, or under the More section on the app. Phone number ending in 1892.
Hello, this is Debbie from Maryland, and I'm just, when you do all this mental health counseling, as we all those who do this in the blindness field, we know that there's people we can't help. There's sometimes things that just don't work out, and on a hotline you may not know about them. But how do you deal with that, knowing that there's just sometimes the problems are just so deep and there's so many, and you help some, but you can't, you know, there's so many that you can't help and so many horrible things happening. How do you just live with that and deal with that and, you know, live a cheerful life when you know about those things and are thinking about those things?
That is a wonderful question. I practice a lot of self-care. You know, I also, way back whenever I was in my first ever crisis line experience back in 2008, it was a local suicide prevention / catch-all crisis line. And one of my supervisors told me, you know, in regards to someone who was having suicidal ideations and or attempting, she said, you know, Ashley, think about this. You cannot control the other side of that call. You have no, you know, bearing on what they do or what they don't do. All that you have any sort of, you know, control over or anything to do with is the interaction that you and that person have. And beyond that, you don't, it's not in your hands. And I think knowing that has brought me a lot of peace and has been able to, you know, really help me to just, you know, let it go. And, you know, and now don't get me wrong, there are some calls that linger and, you know, I do have to just process that. And, you know, there's been times when I've had to have myself a good cry after a call, or I had to, you know, vent my frustrations because there was only so much that I could do. And because it's a hotline, you don't have the follow-up services that you would have in traditional, you know, therapeutic settings. But for the most part, just knowing that, you know, I can only affect the interaction that myself and the caller have while we are on the phone.
We've got Nate Heckert.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got a question. I don't know if I missed it, but you said there was training, right? Could you talk about what the training entailed or how long the training was, maybe a little bit?
Sure. So the training was 24 hours. It was a couple of Saturdays and a couple of Tuesday nights worth of training, or maybe 3 of those. And we covered different, you know, we spent a whole day talking about how to work with survivors of rape, for example. We spent time talking about what's called fantasy callers, which are people who really are not in crisis or do not need information. They're just calling to excite themselves. And, you know, they're not really in need of anything. They just kind of basically want to waste time. They see the word sex as in sexual in the line, and they just want to see how far they can get. And then we've talked about chronic callers, which are, you know, those who might fall into the severe and persistent, you know, mental health diagnoses category. And these are folks who would call us, you know, sometimes just to check in, say they were alive, and sometimes they would call and, you know, for years and years and years, they would call on a specific day at a specific time because they knew that a specific person was on, or they thought they did, and they would just want to, you know, just tell little bits of their story. Or, you know, when they had crisis, they would call as well. So we covered, and then we did, excuse me, we also spent a day talking about how to help survivors of human trafficking. And I have spoken to a few of those folks myself as well. And so it was a very, very comprehensive training. It really added on to the training I already had. And then we do continuing education each year. I know there was one we did about specifically working with women who are in prison who report having been sexually assaulted, just things like that.
All right, we've got Liz Morgan.
Hi, I think I missed how you said that, like what organization this is through or anything.
Sure. This is with an agency down here in Tennessee called the Sexual Assault Center, but we also answer the phone for the national Rape and Incest National Network, the RAIN hotline.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and Kira, you can unmute Kira.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you go.
Yep. Cool. So I guess I just figured I'd ask, since you're here, do they also, what if you don't have like training as a therapist or any of like the psychology field?
I heard you say if you don't have training as a therapist or any of the psychology fields, and then you cut out. Can you repeat just the last part of your question?
Oh, do they take volunteers who haven't had that kind of training?
They do. They don't. You don't necessarily have to have training as a therapist or training in psychology or anything. They do. I'll have to check about this, but I believe they do at least want someone to have like a bachelor's degree in a helping profession, and that can be education, social work, psychology, sociology, counseling. I think the list of what they would consider to be helping professions is pretty broad.
Okay.
So if you would like, you can get my email from Jess and just send me like just a little bit of information about what type of degrees that you have, and I can check and see if that would be anything that would be accepted by Sexual Assault Center.
Okay.
All right. That's all the questions.
All right, fantastic. So our next presenter is really cool. These calls have been really neat because we've been able to get to meet people from all over the places that we didn't know before. And so this next person emailed me and was like, "Hey, I see that you guys are doing a workshop on virtual volunteering, and I've been doing this really cool volunteer work, and I would love to share about it." So I am so excited to get to meet her tonight, and that's Miss Kristen Steel. So Kristen, thank you so much.
And you can unmute Miss Kristen. There you go.
Thank you, Jessica. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. This is a perfect talk. So I've been doing a lot of volunteering, and especially in the quarantine, and these are some great resources that I'd like to investigate myself. But what I've personally been doing is finding ways to give back to other blind people, and especially other Braille readers, because I'm a strong Braille reader. I've known Braille for 18, 20 years now. I'm going on 23, so yeah, I'm a lifelong Braille reader. And the first thing I did to volunteer in Braille is through bookshare.org, and that is a website. It's an accessible online Braille library. So they have books in Braille. They can be converted into Word docs, or they can be read on like a Victor Reader stream, or a lot of times people will listen to Bookshare on even the iPhone. They have that Read to Go app. So Bookshare has a program where you don't have to be a subscriber, you don't have to be a member, but you can. And if you are a member and you volunteer for them, I believe you get $2.50 off of your next membership for each book that you submit. So you can either scan books, which is a little bit tricky being totally blind myself, because you have to know if the whole page was scanned, if you're missing anything. So I like to proofread. And you can download these as RTF files, so they're rich text format. I have a Braille Note Touch that I use, or an Apex. I've done on the Apex before. I'm sure the Braille Sense would be a good resource for that, or if people have like the Orbit Reader, different things where you can actually read and feel it. I wouldn't recommend a screen reader for this, just because you're looking for pagination, which is the page numbering, and you're looking for commas, anything that you think. You're not essentially correcting the grammar of the author. So if there's things that are slang, that you're not correcting that. You're making sure that the Braille matches the print. So if you see something like an exclamation point will come out as a 1, because for those of you who have a basic knowledge of print, the exclamation point looks like a 1. Or I've seen where an I and an L will get mixed up. Or things like the periods will come out as something else, or apostrophes come out as open quotes sometimes. And print readers, you probably know what I mean a little more than people who haven't had any experience with print. And the big thing you're checking for is the chapters bolded. I mean, are the pages, do they have the right numbering? Are the spacing, is the spacing parallel on each side of that page number? So things that make it crisp when you download a Bookshare book and you say, oh, that Braille is great. Well, someone spent hours proofreading. So if you're not a Bookshare member, they're happy to have you. But if you are, again, you get something off your membership. And the membership, for those who are interested, it's $50 a year. So I think I've proofread like 8 or 10 books in the last year. So then you take that times 250. So you get that number off of your next membership. And there's a link on their website. And the email that you would do is volunteer@bookshare.org to get in touch with them. They will have you just kind of verify your email. They'll probably want your phone number, and they'll want you to do a sample one. And when you do the bolding, the formatting, you might want to have a sighted person look over just the first couple times. I'm not the best at formatting and knowing how things look, so I've used Ira for that, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be fine. And they'll validate your book. It'll take a few days, and someone will look over it. They'll say, a book you submitted has been validated. And then it says proofread by Kristen Steel, which is pretty cool. And the other thing that I am just diving into myself right now, so I don't have as much insight on this, is Learning Ally, or Learning Ally, I believe they say, is looking for volunteers. Learning Ally is an audiobook service. So they record books for blind and dyslexic listeners. They don't have anything to do with Braille. So if you don't know Braille or you're not as proficient, this might be more of something you would turn toward. Learning Ally, there's several different opportunities. You can be a storyteller. So storytellers are the ones that tell children's books. So think of juvenile, grade school, children's fiction. They will tell that story. And you want to change your voice for different characters. Be a narrator. Make that play come to life like you're sitting in front of it at the community playhouse. And then there's another course. So these are all courses that you would complete online. The next course is called the Narrator. And narrators usually do more of a textbook style. So you might be reading a science book or English. And if you have different strengths, like I'm a licensed massage therapist, so my background is medical terminology. So I did tell them that, and that would be some of the kind of textbooks you could proofread if you're interested. And then there's also a listener course, which the listener course they told me has summary documentation. So you can have a little bit of more of a note view on that when you train online. You can have more of the bullet points in a Word format or text format, which might be easier. And that way you listen to audiobooks and you can basically just, you want to look for, does the narrator pause? Do they breathe? You don't want to hear a sigh. You don't want people clearing their throat or saying in the middle. So you're looking for clarity. You're looking for something you'd want to sit back and listen to. And you make comments after you've listened. And then the fourth opportunity for Learning Ally is QA, quality assurance. And that one they have instructed me is accessible as well, the course for that. It is more of a here and there sporadic. So if you're someone who just wants to volunteer for a few minutes every day and not put in several hours at a time, or if you want to do it once a month, that might be the opportunity for you. The QA is more kind of, you can come back to it and do a little bit here and there. That's just checking more of the alignment of the book, how it's put together, if the file's uploaded correctly, your quality assurance checking, making sure that things are how they should be before it's finally uploaded. And those are two great ones for giving back to Braille readers. The email for Learning Ally, you can also click volunteer on their website. And the email is vol-support@learningally.org. And Ally is ALLY. And I also wanted to mention too, before this pandemic, I worked for hospice care, so I've spent the majority of my career working in hospice care. So if you don't have anyone elderly or in assisted living, my grandmother herself, she has Alzheimer's, she's in a nursing home, but I deal with people with memory loss, I deal with traumatic brain injuries, and people with walkers, wheelchairs, physical disabilities. I provide massage therapy, but one thing they're looking for right now is people who will volunteer over the phone and talk to the elderly. Because even my grandmother is isolated. I haven't seen her in 6 weeks. She's at the Waterford here in Omaha, and they are not allowing visitors. So she's mainly wanting people to talk on the phone. So for that, I would suggest contacting nursing homes, assisted livings in your area, and just saying, I'm willing to write to seniors, I'm willing to talk to seniors on the phone. And if you're really interested, I've set up a website for this purpose. My website is faithfulfriendsforseniors.com. So it's Faithful Friends for FOR spelled out, seniors all run together.com. And I'm just getting it started, so it's more of a collaborative effort right now, but I would like to have volunteers sign up, and then you can sign up a loved one for a low-cost membership just to cover the website maintenance, and they will receive companionship calls on a weekly, twice a week, 3 times a week basis. And for some people, that might be the only voice they hear during the day if they're homebound or isolated. So I really encourage you to give back to Braille readers and then people who are elderly or homebound and just need that sense of someone cares about me and the human voice that they can hear on the other end. So thank you, Jessica, for inviting me on, and I hope people will look into those.
Thank you so much. That's fantastic. It made me think that I'd be happy to call some seniors. So we'll have to jump on your website. Kevin, did you write that one down for us?
Yeah, I put them all in the chat.
Fantastic. And so thank you so much. Does anybody have questions for Kristen?
You can raise your hand if you do. All right. You're up.
So I wanted to ask about, because I'd heard about proofreading for Bookshare. Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Yeah, no, you're good. I can hear you.
Cool. I wasn't sure. I have my speech muted because I don't have my Braille display at the moment, and I don't like it talking in the middle of things. Anyway, I've heard about proofreading for Bookshare. How is there a way to know about formatting when you're reading? When you're proofreading stuff on using a Braille display or something like that? Is there a way to know like the formatting at all?
Depends on what Braille display you have. I do most of mine on the Braille Note Apex, and if you have a Braille Note, you can press the 2 outer thumb keys, and it will bring you into editing mode. So what kind of Braille display do you have by chance?
I have a brilliant Braille display.
Okay, yeah. So just kind of look in the set. Interesting.
I use a Mac with VoiceOver, but yeah.
Yeah, so you could contact Bookshare staff, or if you want to email Jessica and she can give you my email, I'd be happy to sort that out for you as well.
All right, that sounds good.
All right. We've got Liz Morgan. Liz?
Yes. Can you repeat the name of your website again, please?
Yeah, I saw the Colorado Center put it out, but it's Faithful Friends for FOR Seniors.com.
Thank you.
Again, it's up and running. I'm just making some final touches to it. We don't have very many clients yet, but you can be on a waiting list when we have a large array of clients. We'll definitely get in touch with you.
All right.
Thanks.
And we've got Marcy.
Marcy Duty from Iowa. I know you.
You can unmute, Marcy.
Hey, Kristen. Good presentation. Hey. Tell me about the courses for Learning ILI for narrator, listener, QA. How much does it cost to take those courses?
Those are totally free. There's the 4 courses, as I said, the storyteller, narrator, the QA, and listener. And they're just modules online. So you'll probably watch a few videos, and it was a lot of text on the screen, so it's pretty accessible, but it's no cost. The membership itself, they are doing a special for COVID-19. It used to be $135, it's now $100, but unlike Bookshare, I don't believe they discount you for volunteering.
Gotcha. I'm a Bookshare member and love, love, love Bookshare. So that's really cool. Great presentation. And Jessica, thank you so much for these calls. I've enjoyed them greatly.
Thanks for being on. We sure do appreciate it.
Everybody.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna introduce our next volunteer who's gonna be speaking, and this is a lady that I love. Her name is Eileen Gallegos, and for anyone who knows Eileen, she is always the very first one if something is needed to jump up and say, I'll help, whether you're needing just a friend, whether you're needing a laugh, whether you're needing a hand with something. She's 100% on the spot, and we love her, and we're so happy to have her as a volunteer for the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado. And Eileen has done a ton of volunteer work, not only just for the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado, but for other affiliates as well. And she's done a tremendous amount of work in our COVID-19 effort. And so she's going to tell you a little about what she's been doing. So thanks for being here, Eileen.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Your words are a treasure. So I'm just gonna try to go quickly. I was born in Colorado, and I started doing volunteer work when I was a Girl Scout, and I noticed that people were very happy when I did things for them. So I volunteered for senior citizens, and just we used to make them lunch and take it over to the rec center, like burritos and sandwiches and some fruit, that kind of thing. And then I'd sit at the piano. I do not know how to play, but I would pick out little songs, and they really loved that. So then my next volunteer work was, I worked for 15 years for the National Camps for Blind Children. Their main office is in Nebraska. They provide some Braille Bible services, and also like talking, whatever, they're accessible. So you can get either Braille, print, tape. Back in the day, it was tapes. So that was really exciting to work for them, because I just love music, and singing little camp songs and organizing talent shows really made them happy. So that was one of my favorite ways to volunteer. I was also that parent that was never away from the school. So whatever they needed, I was there to lend a hand and learn with the kids. And then I joined the NFB in 1989, but I really didn't start doing any volunteer work until about 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. I started just working for our own chapter, which is the Wild West chapter of Lakewood, Colorado. And so it was so exciting just to see the results of things like going out and getting people to donate things, or people to get together to talk about how we could organize various events, that kind of thing. And then in August of last year, I wanted to really jump in and do more. And because I know some of the family members here in the NFB are getting a little older, I'm very passionate about getting the NFB to grow. So I asked Kevin for some ideas, and so I'm just honored that you all trust me. Are you all still there?
Yeah, we're
Hello?
there. Yep.
Okay. It was really silent. Okay, so I began calling people in Wyoming. There was a list of about 90 people. And oftentimes I would get disconnected calls, or I actually left voicemail with everybody. And so this went on for a couple of weeks, but I didn't give up. I went back and I called those same people again. So what I would do is I would organize different times of the day to see what was more effective. So in the end, I ended up helping to get the state convention going in Wyoming, and they hadn't had one in, I think it was 2 or 4 years. I'm not exact, but we were able to get a chapter started there. And talking to the people was, I feel like sometimes if we email or if we send letters or if there's no personal contact, it doesn't spark as much of an interest, because when people hear that you're interested in what they're saying, whether it's positive, negative, they tend to gravitate toward positive. So we had a great time at the state convention. We were able to get a board together, and I'm honored to be their treasurer for now. And so I feel like that's still a work in progress, and I'm really happy to be a part of that. We're also working to get a chapter started in our Powder Valley area here in Colorado, which is basically Fort Collins, Loveland, and if there's any other areas, I just don't have a really good memory for it. But so we were just getting ready to have our first meeting to elect board members and do all those nice things. And then the COVID came along. And I was sad because, well, we're all sad, but having accomplishments in getting new NFB members and chapters going is a great feeling. So I was sad about that, but Kevin says, well, don't worry, we have work for you. So I've been calling people in another big list and just checking on them, asking them if they know about our hotline, if they know, how they're feeling, and, finding out some people are isolated, others are doing okay. And some of the people that are isolated, they really just want to have a conversation and find out what chapter you're in and what you guys are doing. And I'm finding that the more people I call, people want to be involved. And I still get hung up on sometimes, and I also have to leave voicemail. But for the most part, we were able to get people help. They needed groceries or something from a pharmacy, or they might have just needed a friend to talk to. Or even now, I have people saying, how can I help? I want to be able to do this. So before I tell you how to do that, which is really easy, I just want to say that I am so proud to be an NFB family member, and I just cannot wait to see how many people we could get involved in the next year.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Eileen, and thank you for all the hard work that you've done. It really does take a team to make an affiliate run effectively, and we're so lucky to have you as part of the team. Does anyone have questions for Eileen?
*9 if you're dialing in, Alt-Y on the computer, and under the More section in the app, in the bottom right. All right, we've got phone number ending in 1892.
Debbie Brown from Maryland. Doing Federation calls, I am finding that I think fewer people of this generation, there's so many people who won't answer the phone of somebody they don't recognize. Are you finding that to be the case, that it gets kind of discouraging? You don't get a person because they just won't pick up the phone for a stranger, and some of them don't even really know how to check their voicemail to know that somebody actually has called. Do you find that has happened to you more than it used to?
Well, I'm pretty sure that some people won't get back to you, but what I found out is if I call, I definitely leave a message so people know who I am. And generally, if they're interested, they'll call back. I did have somebody call who was a mom. She had twins, and they were both blind, 2 years old, was very excited to know about our convention and how she could get there and those types of things. And then it was discouraging for the first 2 or 3 weeks, but I just started to change, like when I called, and I did call back, and there were people that told me, don't call back again. And I just don't take that as a personal thing, because we all get so many scam calls and I want to sell you this and that. So I think the hardest part was just letting people know I really don't want anything. I would just like to give you some information. So if you just, you got to work around the way, what works best for you, really.
I'm gonna just comment really quickly on that and as well and say I still do phone calling, but I used to do a whole lot of phone calling when I worked as the chapter and community development specialist for NFBCO Colorado. And one thing that I found is a lot of times you don't think that people are listening. You don't think that they're even getting your voicemails, or that you know, that they're even acknowledging that you're calling. But it's interesting that I've met people years later who have who've wandered into an event, or who found their way to an at-large chapter, or who've come to a convention, and they'll say, oh yeah, I remember you, Jessica, you always used to make phone calls and invite me to the at-large chapter meeting. So a lot of times, even if it seems fruitless, a lot of times you are planting those seeds, and sometimes it might not be for instant gratification, but for a lot of people, they're hearing about you, and when they're ready, that it might be a more appropriate time or a more appropriate need, they do know where to reach back to.
Yeah, I think that's right. And also, people, if you think that, I mean, it wouldn't matter to Eileen anyway. She would just go undaunted. She was like, okay, well, hang up on me, and you can hang up on me again next week. So that's just the type of volunteer she is. The other thing I wanted to say about this, too, is, Eileen, you actually almost, you've taken that to the next level, because not only do you make all of your calls, then you get your friends and colleagues to call 10 or 20 or 40 people as well. So
Absolutely.
you get on both levels, which is what we got to do. First, start making all the calls, whether you're working for that crisis line, or whether you're working for the National Federation of the Blind, or whether you're working for Learning Ally. Start doing some volunteer, and then leverage that energy and that effort and get other people to join you. And then you got the snowball effect. That's what you do, Eileen. You have that snowball effect going. And we just love you and thank you for all the work you do for, people don't even know you also raise a lot of money for blind bowling leagues and churches, and you'll do anything. So
yeah. Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Do we have any other questions for Eileen?
I just want to say real quick, because I promised I would, the way that you can help me or any of our NFB members is to just contact your affiliate and let them know you want to make calls, you want to reach out to people. And for us, you could leave a message on our hotline, which I'll have Maureen give it out, even though, because I just want to hear her beautiful voice, but she can tell you the information to call in or send us an email, let us know you want to help. And if I can help you help us, I gladly will. I've just recently, at the beginning, I was practically speechless. I wasn't sure what to say. I was fumbling around, but I am to a point now where I've actually made up kind of a form with a survey, so we could ask about, do you know about Newsline? Do you know about our outreach programs? Do you have a white cane? Do you need a slate and stylus? How can we help you? So if you are interested in helping, I know as for me, I would be glad to talk to you.
All right, awesome.
Give the hotline.
Maureen, if you're on, you can give the hotline number, or I can give it either way. It's 303-778-1130, extension 2.
Sorry.
That's okay.
No, sorry. Yeah. So the hotline number is 303-778-1130, extension 219. And that voicemail is checked several times a day. So feel free to leave a message there, or email assistance@nfbco.org, assistance@nfbco.org.
All right.
It just took a second for me to unmute.
Okay. Any other questions? Right, fantastic. Well, I just want to once again say a big thank you to everyone who helped and who participated, and everybody for coming on the call tonight. So thanks, and come see us next Monday.
Thanks,
Everybody.
Hey, thank you, everybody.
Jessica.
Thank you.
Somebody hear me?
Oh.
Playing Eileen
Jessica?
Gallegos.
Yeah.
Can somebody hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Hey.
Oh.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
About the volunteers. She was saying something, and I apologize if I sound rude, but my name is Sherry, and I'm from Philadelphia. She was talking about making phone calls, but where is she getting her phone numbers from to make these phone calls?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we can get lists.
That's a great question. So we actually, the NFB has a program that's called the Free White Cane Program and the Free Slate Stylist Program. And so anybody, regardless of their affiliation with the organization, can apply and get a free white cane or a free slate and stylus. We also get named, and we those names are collected and they're sent each month to affiliate presidents. And so those affiliate presidents can then send those out to people to make calls. You can also reach back to the national office and they can give you like a bigger list from a whole year or something like that. We also collect information from people who subscribe to the Braille Monitor, or for kids who participate in our summer camps, or from people who subscribe to other publications that we might have. So there's a ton of ways that we collect data, and every one of our affiliates like that is not proprietary information of the National Center. It's shared openly with our affiliate presidents. So you can reach out to your affiliate president for that info.
Okay, that's it. I was just curious. You know, I used to do that kind of stuff before, so I was just curious where you got your calls from.
Yeah. The state affiliate president has lists for each state.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, everybody.